we go. There we go. Welcome. Today we're gonna be doing some things. It's a funny story. Hassan's live streaming right now. We're gonna dive into that primarily, and it's with another political figure, and I have no idea who the fuck she is. So let's find out.
Pretty clear sense of how we can
I'm not even
change
gonna
that.
try.
We need to do better coordination. It isn't just the Department of Transportation that's responsible for delivering these outcomes. It's the Bureau of Street Services. It's the people who build our sidewalks. It's the people who build who.
I have no idea who the fuck this person is or what the deal is or anything like that.
Deliver on the big ambitious goals of HLA, ensure that all of these departments are working together in a cost-effective way such that we can actually build out the mobility network of our dreams. And I'm pushing for exactly that kind of leadership across these departments and change.
I'll wait for us on the questions to ask another question before I jump on anything.
Structure. There's also ways that we can invest in transit infrastructure that are not crazily expensive, that won't break the bank, that can actually generate much safer streets. So for in neighborhoods, you can put in very low cost interventions like bollards and roundabouts within neighborhoods to create a neighborhood network of calm streets. Not on.
I don't want fucking roundabouts over here. That sounds fucking awful. But I do agree. There's lots of cheap ways you can do public transit that do generate a lot of revenue, and only a lot of people just stick with buses, you know. And there's other ways to go about it. There's rentals that can be done by more than just fucking private companies. They can be done by the government in all different aspects.
Obviously, we have somewhat of a metro system, but it's, the problem with Los Angeles public transportation is that it's unreliable, and you can't have a public transportation system that's unreliable. Buses don't come on time.
Yeah.
And the routes don't go to every different part of the city.
Yeah.
What's your plan to address that? Or is there even a plan to build out a more robust public transit system?
Yeah, so our public transit system is largely controlled by Metro, which is a regional entity.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor has 4 appointees on Metro, the mayor's seat and 3 other people. And I want to use our Metro contingent to push for speedy completion of the projects, the big transit investments that are going to be the most transformative for the city of Los Angeles, to ensure that we have the connectivity and the big investments that can actually transform our capacity to get around LA using transit. So that will include the Sepulveda Transit Corridor, which can help get us off of the 405, which can get us from the valley to the west side in less than 15 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. We have to be pushing for these kinds of big transit investments to be built. That means making sure that we have a plan for investment. That means making sure that we are pushing as a delegation to prioritize.
It doesn't matter how many fucking buses and shit you build, how many roundabouts you put in neighborhoods. There's going to be traffic, you know? Are you going to invest in the
utilized our role on Metro to get what we need for Los Angeles over the last few years? And I want to change that. I want to be a leader at Metro again, and I want to deliver a system of transit that really works for us in LA. But can I talk about one other thing, which is, I think, bus transit is really important. These big train projects are fun. They are exciting. They're important. But most people who take transit actually take the bus. And I think making sure that buses are more frequent and making that a priority for Metro, fighting for that as a priority for Metro is something that I think is really important for us to be doing. I'm also really proud to say that for the first
to you, and you be able to get on at a certain time.
The raise
not necessarily the amount of like how long it takes. I guess she said 15 minutes, but
seen those new kind of pale green bus shelters.
I have not.
Yeah, well, they're all over LA. We're building hundreds of them now, and in the future we'll be building thousands. And that that effort came about because we
Those
took
are
the
good.
advertising revenue from
shelters.
those bus shelters and put them
That's a
right
big
back
deal.
into building more
Yeah,
bus
it's all about
shelters.
homeless people.
And so now with a steady revenue source, we're actually building out transit infrastructure, including
Like,
shaded
the idea
bus shelters
of like,
are
being
gonna
able to take the bus
make
is more than
getting
just,
around on
like, some
transit
dude
so
getting
much
to
better
work
for people,
from
and I'm really
his
proud of that
job
work.
as a fucking chef.
Okay, hell yeah. Well, this
It's-
also ties into what I'm
It's
about
also
to
about
talk
like
about.
being able to send your kids
One
to
of
school
the,
and not using school transport. 'Cause
I mean,
it's
one of the
it's
things that you
even
would
more
be
unreliable.
overseeing
It's about
as
being
mayor in
able to
2028 would
take
be
other
the
items
Olympics.
on
The man in charge of organizing the
bicycles
event,
and stuff so that
Casey
people can do
Wasserman,
family
recently sold off his
events,
talent agency due to his connections to
and
Jeffrey
regular
Epstein and
things.
Ghislaine
Travel in a
Maxwell.
car on a bus.
He had sent
That's what
gross, flirty emails to
That's what
Ghislaine.
changes things.
A few months ago, he was
If it's
pictured
just
meeting
the
with
same
wanted
and it's
war
just a
criminal
little-
Benjamin
Well,
Netanyahu.
that's good. What she's talking
You
about is
called
good, but I don't know
for
if it'd be enough to
Casey
make it to
Wasserman's,
where it's,
or
you know,
you you called for
if
Casey
there's still
Wasserman's
traffic, you're still gonna be on the
resignation, but then
bus
you
for an
proceeded
hour,
to say
you know what
you'd
I'm
work
saying?
with him every day once the board
you
kept
still
him.
need
How
security
do you
on
envision
these-
working with someone
maybe
every
not
day,
everything, but,
like
you know,
Casey Wasserman?
some form of security,
And
or,
do you view this
or
as
some, like,
capitulation,
looking at
or
bus
is there
drivers
any other
themselves.
alternative here?
I mean, the reality is that the Olympics are happening
You
and
just
that
need-
the
you just need
LA28
safe,
board
reliable
has the
transport that
power to
people can
pick
send
their
their fucking
leadership.
kids on, to be honest with you.
If I were mayor,
That's
my
when it
goal
starts to
would be to
get
make sure that the
used
Olympics are
improperly.
being executed in a way that benefits
what you're talking
Angelenos
about is good,
and
though.
doesn't harm them, and that we have the best possible event that we can have. And I will do whatever it takes to do that. That is what you have to do when you're in leadership. You don't always get to pick your partners. You don't always get to pick who you're working with. You have to do what it takes to deliver for the residents of Los Angeles. That's what I want to do.
Okay. As far as the Olympics taking place, is there an opportunity here to justify additional expenditure on a more robust public transit network, given that traffic density will be completely out of control and it's virtually impossible to pack people into small areas like where events are taking place?
Yeah.
The only reason why this kind of problem doesn't the only reason why this kind of problem doesn't exist in even places like New York is because of adequate public transit. Is there an opportunity there to justify additional budgets for Metro and also specifically for bus lanes as well?
Well, that was. I think we can definitely invest in
There you go, talk about the road work
in
and stuff.
getting around, especially allowing for buses to get around through dedicated bus lanes during the period of the Olympics.
There
And
we
I
go.
think there's an opportunity to ensure that the investment that we're doing for the
But also just
Olympics
outside the Olympics.
is actually, if when appropriate, being preserved for the long term. So it's not just an investment
'Cause
that
the
we're
idea is the
wasting,
more people that
not
use these
wasting, but
buses, the less people that have to
using
use
and
their
then
cars, you know what I'm
taking
saying?
away. That we're actually building permanent infrastructure that can last for the city of Los Angeles afterwards. That would be a very exciting thing to think about as part of our investment process. But I will say that the reason why we have had money for things like the D-line expansion, why we have some money for things like the Sepulveda Transit Corridor, is because we, as a region, passed Measure M, which was supposed to build a bunch of projects, public transit projects, before the Olympics. Not all of them, many of them have not been built, but we've made some progress here. And I think the Olympics as an organizing principle for investments is an exciting one that this region can do better. But yeah, and I want to make sure that we're using every last dollar to result in lasting impacts.
Okay. You voted no on the host city agreement over taxpayer overrun liability, but then in October 2025, you voted 14-0 with the rest of the council to waive planning, zoning, and environmental review for Olympics construction with no binding anti-displacement protections. What are some of the plans that you have to make sure that homeless people are not being swept ahead of the sporting events? Because we know that this is one of the major things that cities end up doing. The beautification initiatives oftentimes
get anywhere else.
just to move homeless people around, engage in sweeps and things of that nature.
I think that's part of why it's so important to actually build out a real system of homelessness response that's effective. We have to be able to bring more people into shelter and indoors. And I want to compare, the
So she's
situation that
saying-
there is in New York City versus here.
Okay.
Here we have a third of the shelter beds that we need for our total homeless population. New York has 100% of the shelter beds that it needs for its homeless population.
Shelters are great and
And
everything,
has very
but
little
ultimately
unsheltered
it just
homelessness
becomes
as a
a place
result.
where a bunch of homeless people hang
Here in
out. You
LA,
need
2/3 of our
services.
homeless population is on the streets. They're experiencing unsheltered homelessness. we have to do better at getting people indoors in advance
Two-thirds
of
of the
these
homeless
big events.
population's on the streets. No,
Because
the entirety of the
we
homeless
will have
population
a
is on the streets.
situation
That's what makes you
where,
homeless.
I think there could be real risks, and I want to avoid against that by moving towards an effective system of safety and care that brings people into the shelters that they deserve to be in, that they need to be in.
Okay.
So
I'll
saying
give
we're
you
gonna
a softball now. Reality star
Saying-
Spencer Pratt is
You
currently
told
polling
it kinda
around
weird.
22%, potentially squeezing you out of a runoff.
Yeah.
He's running as a MAGA Republican in a deep blue
So
state.
basically, she said,
He has talked
"We'll
about
just build more
how much he
shelters
likes
to sweep them
ICE.
to."
He's denied.
I don't think she was really ready for that one.
At some point, I believe he's praised Alex
Yeah,
Jones.
she didn't really say
He's,
that.
he's appeared
So
on
building
Infowars
shelters, you know, is
multiple
great and
Yeah.
all.
times,
It's
multiple
just
times.
you
He
need
also-
to back that up with other
Mommy.
things so that you're not just
Which,
like creating.
Some people are.
trap
I mean,
villages,
it is
for
what
real.
It is. A
Like,
lot of those guys have turned into
You
MAGA
just put
Republicans for
homeless
some
people there.
reason.
It's like there you go.
And
then eventually they'll get swept around
where
again.
he's been living after his house burned down. We found out. Shouts out to TMZ. He was living
know.
in, was it Bel Air Hotel, I believe, even though he claimed he was living in an Airstream. Pratt has been pumping out AI slop ads, despite LA being the global center of creative media work. What's your plan to protect creative jobs when in Hollywood, when rich dickheads like Spencer Pratt are too eager to automate away all their work with AI?
Well, I think we need to be fighting for Hollywood. We've lost tens of thousands of jobs here in LA over the past few years, and we've been very quiet. The city has been very quiet about watching these jobs walk away, and it's been really, really frustrating. We saw a little expansion of the tax credit from the state level. I think the mayor, and if I'm mayor, I'll be the loudest advocate for a tax credit that doesn't have a cap, that ensures that we're accommodating things like above the line costs, that is guaranteed years into the future. Netflix built a studio in New Jersey. They should have built it here, and the tax credit can be the thing that really ensures that we can have that investment happening in LA. And LA's leadership, our mayor, needs to be the loudest advocate for that. That's what I want to be doing. And we absolutely have to be fighting for that. I think we can also make it easier to shoot here. We can make it easier to make sure that costs are lower here for people who are working here, take away all of our red tape. But we have to be out there fighting for this industry, and I think it's incredibly, incredibly important. I'm also really worried about the potential for job loss from these mergers. We've seen what's happened across different companies that have merged and the numbers of jobs that have gone away. I'm glad to see that the Attorney General is suing this merger. I'm not sure how successful that will be, but I think that kind of proactive pushback against this kind of corporate consolidation is really important. I have some real concerns about this.
Okay. Now for the elephant in the room, a tough one, but a few weeks ago you posted multiple statements, rightfully acknowledging the Armenian genocide and celebrating the Armenian diaspora in Los Angeles. As you might know, the word genocide was coined by Polish-Jewish lawyer Raphael Lemkin in the early 1940s during his studies of the Armenian genocide with the intention of criminalizing it and preventing the ongoing Holocaust from ever happening again. Do you agree with dozens of human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, that Israel has committed a genocide?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Said that.
In your 2020 DFILA questionnaire, you said you don't support boycott, divestments, and sanctions, BDS, and that you support Israel's right to exist. Has your stance changed since then? And do you believe Israel has a right to exist in its current form as an ethno-state that's currently being investigated for genocide at the International Court of Justice?
Yes, I do believe that Israel has a right to exist. I want to see countries that are operating without apartheid, with equality in their borders. I come from a country, from India, which is, now operating through Hindu nationalist principles, and I'm deeply critical of it, and I'm critical of that when it happens everywhere.
Do you believe that Israel is an apartheid state then?
I think that it is. Yeah, I think that they're not treating people fairly. That they're treating people unequally. I do believe that, and I'm critical of that. But yeah.
Okay. Um, in February 2024, the SALA censured you for accepting the endorsement of Democrats for Israel LA, a group that has openly opposed a Gaza ceasefire. Um, Knowing what we know now and seeing the videos of Gaza in ruins, do you disagree with that endorsement? Would you still seek it out at this point? Has your attitude shifted, and if so, why?
Yeah, um, I wouldn't seek it out now. And I've spoken out against the violence in Gaza. I was the co-author of a ceasefire resolution at City Hall. Never was voted on, but I co-authored it and put it forward. I was actually the first person to talk about the violence against Palestinians in the building. And I remain deeply, deeply concerned about the violence across the entire region. That being said, I do want to acknowledge that being mayor, my role is not one that has foreign policy, power. It's really one that is about Angelenos and making sure that Angelenos are safe here, that we're pushing back against anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, both of which have increased in the wake of what's happening. And I think this is the role of the mayor. Was my role as a council member, and one that I'm very focused on. And I want to make sure every person across Los Angeles feels safe expressing their beliefs, feels safe protesting, and something that I will continue to focus on if I'm mayor.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking this question is because you're right. There are people who like Israel living in Los Angeles. There are people who don't like Israel living in Los Angeles. The overwhelming majority at this point, I believe, especially in the Democratic Party side, is totally on the side of the Palestinians, as polls show over and over again. But local politicians, yourself included, do have a tremendous amount of power in terms of what kind of activism is allowed on U.S. soil in Los Angeles and what kind of activism is not allowed. The reason why I say this is because, and this is, I'm sure you know, there was the DSA open letter. You co-authored a city resolution that made anti-Palestinian LA United School District resolution a city council priority and was used to shut down the United Teachers Union of Los Angeles's members' historic BDS resolution vote as a result of a smear campaign. What do you have to say about that characterization? Has there been some change in your analysis of the situation? Do you feel like those decisions in the past might have been wrong? What was guiding your framework at the time, and what has changed is what I'm trying to arrive at.
Yeah, I think I have become more aware of these issues over my time on city council. This wasn't where I had organized before. My organizing background was really around housing and homelessness issues. That's how I came to the DSA originally. I liked Bernie Sanders, and they were the only organization locally talking about renters' rights. Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that. That's why I got engaged on this issue. And, I think my work on the city council has changed, especially after we've seen the horrors in Gaza. And I feel like I know more, although I will confess this is still not my area of expertise. I'm still really focused on the issues facing Los Angeles, and we'll continue doing that.
Okay. Well, the reason why a lot of people, myself included, see this as a important moral test is for the obvious reasons. Some of the reasons that you also acknowledge, but the other reason is because it's a pretty reliable litmus test to try to figure out if politicians and people who are seeking out positions of governance are responsive to the needs of the masses, especially considering that this is now the Democratic Party's overwhelming majority position, rather than beholden to corporate interests. This is the reason why it's like a very effective litmus test, and that's the reason why I'm asking you about it. And like the honest transformation that may have taken place in your worldview, so it doesn't come across as simply someone like, for example, Scott Wiener, who uh, very actively pushed for a lot of pro-Israel provisions, and then now is trying to claim that he actually recognizes that there is a genocide that has taken place because he has a congressional seat that he's trying to win at a time when, everyone is on board. So if there has been a difference in opinion or a change in your mentality, what has been some of the things that you saw that made you reconsider your previous position?
I spoke out about this issue in the ceasefire resolution and in city council because I saw the violence in Gaza and was moved by it. And I think that a lot of people across the country have had that same evolution.
A lot of people saw the response from October
and
7th.
it
We're like,
is-
holy shit.
It is
And just like kind of learn what happened up
uh,
to that point. That why
has been
October
one of the
7th
biggest
even
issues
happened.
animating this country, especially in the last election. And I think I've moved with the people.
Okay.
I've learned more,
Do you?
and I'm committed to learning more as well, while also acknowledging again that the mayor's seat is not primarily one that is focused on foreign policy issues, and I think
No, of course not.
it is really a place where people are looking to the mayor's office to
Yeah, the word is
ensure that we
carefully.
have a safe city for everyone,
Um,
and to ensure that their ability
Yeah.
to speak out about these issues and to work on and to protest, for example, the rights of protest is really important. We have to make sure that LAPD is responding in better ways to these kinds of protests. People have to be able to exercise their First Amendment rights, and I think these are the kinds of things that these are the kinds of places where I think it's important, and these are places where I have spoken out in the past as well. When there was, I think, a lot of violence in UCLA, I called for an investigation into what had LAPD done in that in response to that protest encampment. And I think these are places where I have pushed back really on these questions already, and places that I would continue to think about where